Hello and welcome to episode 83 of the Cutie Art Crusaders for February 4th, 2014. My name is Rainbow Plasma, I'm the organizer of this podcast, and today I'm joined by...
Burn1, the special guest coordinator of this podcast, and tonight I will be the editor as well.
I'm Flutterguy317, and I am the media manager for the podcast.
And I am Atmospark. I do the questions.
For this podcast.
Oh, this podcast.
Of this podcast.
I guess you have to be specific.
Yeah.
Because
this podcast.
he doesn't do all the questions in the world, you know? You don't have to pay him every single time you add a question mark. Although
Please
that would
do.
be like the best trademark
Yeah,
ever.
that would be pretty good.
He
I'd be very
does
much
the
okay with this.
questions for the podcast.
I would get so much money from all those like high school girls in the middle of their high school drama, just like on like chat messaging service and text where they do like there's millions of question marks.
Well, and also when they talk.
Yeah, when they talk.
You know, I actually
Back that up
learned
with
something interesting.
inflection.
Pinky Dash, why are boys so cruel?
I don't have
Or
to answer
Atmo,
their
whatever.
questions. I just get paid whenever they use a question mark.
Yeah.
I actually learned something pretty cool about that, but it's long and boring, so I'm not going to talk about it. But for the record, there is an interesting theory to why teenage girls have an inflection that goes up, and they always ask stuff in questions.
Why
yeah.
is that?
No.
Nope.
It's
It's
long.
Google it.
It's long and extremely polarizing.
Okay.
So I'm not going to talk about it.
I sense an innuendo.
No. That was like the least PG thing that we could ever keep on the podcast, by the way. Wow. All right. Well, speaking of big things, we made a big change last week. It's not really that big, but we're saying it is.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
It's about twice as big.
So anyways, we had gotten a lot of questions recently from people who were asking us, hey, so you do 720p video, but why don't you do 1080p video? And originally it was because it would be hard to change the template over, but I decided that last week I would sit down and spend a couple of hours, and so I went through and I kind of revamped all of our, because we make the show kind of on like a template. It's so that we can make it faster, and so that Burn doesn't have to like know advanced crazy editing skills in order to be able to do it and save my
What
butt every
is
second week.
Vugus?
We have to dumb everything down to burned.
So
Sony Vugus, how work?
So I recently updated the kind of show template. So now you should be able to see a difference in the show. Now, I don't really know. I think the codec I'm using doesn't support YouTube uploading it to 1080p, so you should still have the option for 720p. I don't really know. I'll try to figure that out. It's not a huge difference between the two, but I also made some changes. Like you'll notice the backgrounds have better detail and they look less crap. So that in general should be nicer to look at, and you guys should see a noticeable difference. If you want to see the biggest difference right now, you don't even have to change videos. If you literally go to our intro, it's our old version, and then you go to like right now where I'm talking, and it should be the new version, and you should be able to already see the difference in colors and in quality. Mostly because another thing that came up when I was doing this was that I lost a couple files in our original intro when I was deleting files, I guess. So we can't actually update our intro in 1080p. Now, I actually don't care that much about it. Like, I'd prefer not to make a new intro, because that would be, like, you know, lots of hours to do that. And I also don't want to mess with the formula. So if we can't recreate it in 1080p, I would prefer if we just kind of kept it the same. So you guys let us know what you guys think about that. If you like the change, if you are okay with us kind of switching over and keeping the intro and the old stuff. But yeah, in general, we should have a better looking podcast for you guys.
Please send in your complaints and concerns about our Casual Pony fan art podcast.
We will absolutely spend the most amount of time and effort ignoring them.
It matters so highly.
No, I
about
mean,
the quality
we
of
joke
our
about
own
it.
podcast.
We joke about it, but like obviously people were sending us in stuff, and we put up a poll on our DeviantArt, and we asked them like, hey, what do you guys think about, you know, switching over to 1080p? And you know, a lot of people said that they didn't care, but if people said, hey, if you could, then go for it. So I figured
It's nicer to view the art. That's
Yeah.
really like the
I mean,
what is it? The biggest benefit to come out of this? Well, that and the less scaly background. That's also
the background's
huge plus.
Yeah,
I mean,
so the background's been fixed, and in general, we should have better resolution stuff. So
Doesn't look like we're casting art on the side of an alligator.
yeah, you should go to the artist's page anyway on DeviantArt.
You should.
Yeah, you should.
that is it is very true. So there is that as well. But yeah, so that's something that's new. Hopefully that looks better. So if you notice that, then feel free to just send us something saying good job, because I actually don't know if it's hugely different. But yeah. That's something that happened.
Yeah.
Actually, fun fact, I did that last week. So last episode, you'll be able to see it as well. So if you're comparing last episode and this episode, you're not going to see a difference because I already made the change last week. But if you look back before, then you'll notice a big change. I figure an art podcast should probably have decent art in itself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Decent quality. Yeah.
You'd think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
How many of us are sick at the moment?
yeah.
not me.
I am.
I was. Yeah, so I just wanted to take a moment to kind of apologize to anyone who's in the live stream for the past 2 weeks, because I try and get to all of the live streams or whatever, but yeah, I wasn't feeling well for the past 2 weeks, so I hopped in for 10 minutes, said hi, and then just like went to bed. So but I'm feeling better now, so that's good.
I'm sorry you could only make it to one podcast for only 10 minutes when I've been to every single other one.
I know.
Well, it's nice. It's nice for us to kind of have a representative there, and Flutter Guy's been pretty good about that. But obviously, he gets sick, so that's kind of rough. And I have classes around that time anyway, so I can't.
I'm at work every week.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
You spoil
your
life.
time zones, both of your time zones, aren't really conducive for you to hop in there.
It's been so long for me that my name has been deregistered in the IRC.
Yeah.
So I've
We spoil
lost
our fans.
my Atmos Spark account and my auto voice.
Oh, sad day.
You should re-register that quickly.
Anyways, we're all
anyhow.
kind of getting over something. Well, I've been pretty good actually. I get over colds pretty quickly, so
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm snuffly.
Aw.
But like that's the thing though, because Burned, you've always got like a little bit of a cough, and Atmospark, you always have some sort of like hay fever.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I
it's
got
not
the flu
really
thing at the
new.
moment, though.
It's not really new. Like I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not new.
I'm not. I'm very old. I'm 83 episodes old.
Oh yeah, just quickly. A while ago,
Guys.
Equestria Daily put up a thing about I think like Chinese knockoff pony plushies on Australian eBay. And last week, my roommate came home from shopping and he bought me a derpy that was in one of the shops. That's one of those like Chinese knockoffs. So I have a derpy plushie now, and it's adorable. I don't care that it's a Chinese knockoff.
It's adorable.
It's a bubble
So
butt.
I've seen it.
once again, we just talked about this 2 weeks ago or last week maybe. So Burned, who already had a giant plushie that was given to him, managed to win a giant plushie.
Thank you, the Nightcraft.
And then Mr. Atmospark over here, who already had a giant plushie of Cloud Chaser, just decided to get another one.
Oh no,
Do
he
my
didn't
friends
decide to
suck?
get.
Is that it? You guys suck. You guys are my friends. You suck.
Forget you too.
Yeah.
You've got more
Sad.
art
I'm gonna
than the
hug
rest
and
of us, I
snuggle
think.
all these plushies.
I
sad.
have a plushie on my head, but it's just a small one of me.
I want a
Excuse
big
me while I
plushie.
surround myself by this giant Twilight, this giant Rainbow Dash, and then especially this giant me.
I want a
Hey,
big
Guys, can we put all our
plushie.
money together and get
Hello, friends who are better than Rainbow Plasma.
Rainbow Plasma, one of those giant life-size plushies?
Yeah, of him. Oh my god.
I feel like that would
Monster
be a good
plasma.
story thing. Like
Yeah.
that would lead to many funny situations.
Like the monster pie at, what is it, the Traveling Pony Museum?
Yeah.
Monster
Oh
Plasma.
my god. No,
Oh,
but
right.
Mondo, life-sized Rainbow Plasma.
in all seriousness, though,
Pony.
if you can make it to BronyCon or Everfree this year, I will get you a big plushie.
Oh, I'm coming to BronyCon.
Okay. Well, then I'll get you a
We're
big.
not talking about this yet because we haven't made plans. But
Yeah, that's true. But yeah.
oh, by the way, this is a good point to bring up because we're still already on a tangent. Some people were wondering about like the cons that we're going to. That the thing. Okay, so first of all, Atmospark it lives in Australia, so that's a no
Yeah.
for him. I don't know where the heck I'm living because of job stuff and a bunch of real life complicated things. So I am trying to go to BronyCon, I'm not going to go to Everfree Northwest, I don't think, because I went last year. But I'm trying to go to BronyCon, but like I don't know yet. And I know that both Burned and Flutterguy are trying to go to both.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
Burned.
I'd like to go to both, yeah.
Right.
That's the plan.
At the very least, Burned will probably be going to Everfree Northwest, and at the very least, Flutterguy will be going to BronyCon.
Yep.
I will be going to BabsCon in April. What's
Okay.
that?
That's good. Anyways,
That's somewhere in California.
anyways, don't buy tickets to Everfree Northwest expecting all of us to be there, just
Yeah,
for the
'cause
record.
We probably won't.
You
all
can
be
that was a
expect
one-off for
Burn
last
to be
year.
there.
I'll
Yeah.
be there too.
I'll be there in spirit.
Last year was a one-off
You can say hi to me.
thing because we could get all 4 of us there at the same time.
Yeah.
You can tweet me and you can be like, Burn, I love you. I'm like, oh my gosh.
No, tweet
Anyways.
Animal Spark that you love me because
Anyhow.
I won't be going to any of them and I want to.
Aw. We'll Skype you. While we're there, we'll walk around with a laptop of you, just your face.
You guys can
I'll,
feel
I'll,
free.
buy, I'll buy an iPad especially and we can FaceTime.
Yes.
All right. So
So we
anyhow,
can just make a doll of you. No, the one thing I am really looking forward to, though, in BabsCon is I'll finally be able to go hang out with Lay Customer. That is the plan.
sweet.
It will
Yeah.
happen.
It's cool.
Pumped.
That's awesome. Okay, so anyhow, we are an art podcast, so we do have to move on to the art. Our theme this
Let's
week.
talk more about meeting me.
I know. I mean, you're art in and of itself. So.
Don't let him distract you. Just go. Oh my god.
So the
I
theme
love
this
our
week
fans.
is Gryphons, but we decided to exclude Gilda because, well,
We might
She's
want
not a true Griffin.
Shut up. We excluded Gilda because we found enough pieces that didn't have Gilda in it, and we figured maybe sometime in the future we would do a Gilda episode.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it. I like that better. We'll just say that.
Wow. All right, so
wow.
the first art
So-
piece.
Yeah. And the first art piece is called Genevieve the Griffin by FrostyCat13. And this depicts one of the new Griffins that was seen in Rainbow Falls, which was season 4, episode 10. It was I guess she was seen training like before the whole race thing.
Yeah, so I mean, there was a couple of relay teams, and one of them was like a Griffin team, and it had like a guy Griffin, and then these 2 like girl Griffins, and one of them was like, well, we'll see them later on, but one of them was like a white with black accents, and this one was like black with white and gray accents. And like I personally, like, I really liked their designs. It was a really cool kind of concept, and it kind of gave that aspect of like yin yang kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a really interesting design, and I think we literally had a question like last week, or something like that. It was something like what would you like to see more of, or like what character would you like to see more of? And I said Gryphons,
Yeah.
and you know, like I really do enjoy the Gryphons as like a character within the show, how they look. Even if I wasn't like a huge fan of Gilda, so to see more Gryphons is just awesome.
Yeah. Well, I love the whole like mythological creatures aspect of My Little Pony, especially from like season 1 and I guess season 2. So I would love to see more of those, and Gryphons especially, because they're pretty cool. But
I like
this
that it's not
piece,
just like one race of mythical creatures either. It's like a mixture of a lot of them.
yeah.
Like, 'cause
Yeah, well, it
Gryphons
makes
Gryphons
sense,
aren't Greek,
right?
are they?
I don't know.
I'm not
I
sure.
don't follow a lot of mythology, but it makes sense though, because like you don't think about it because we keep talking about unicorns and pegasi and stuff like that, but those are mythological creatures, right?
Yeah.
Like, so you keep forgetting, at least I keep forgetting that those are mythological creatures, and so when they include these other things, it's like, whoa, why are they including those? It's like, no, it actually makes perfect sense.
Wait, are you saying that unicorns and Pegasus don't exist
Yes,
in the
that's
real
what
world?
I'm saying. Earth
No,
bunnies
they
do.
exist. You just got to believe.
So anyhow, this art piece was done traditionally
Yes.
using pro markers, Copic markers, and white gel pen.
I was going to say
Something
that
that
I
is
like
made in
the
the real
interesting
world.
filter on it, but there is no filter. It's traditional. It's on paper.
Yeah.
Scanner filter?
Maybe. Just adds that tiny little bit of texture from the dust that's gathered on the scanner.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's the grit of the paper, and it's actually really cool. It's been a little while since we've done something like a more traditional and drawn like this, so it's pretty cool.
I love seeing
Well, the
traditional
problem
art.
is transferring traditional onto a digital, because obviously it's distributed in a digital platform, right? So in order to transfer it from traditional to digital without making it seem too digitalized. If you catch what I'm trying to say, you know, keeping the same kind of traditional feel. But this came out really spectacularly. Like I wouldn't be shocked if you told me this was a digital work.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well, I mean, that's
I don't know
like
if
I
it's the
said.
scanner or the style or whatever. I don't know.
That's a big issue that I see sometimes, even with my own like tradition when I do traditional stuff. Is the scanner makes it really, really hard to take what you've done traditionally and put it on a computer. So a lot of time I see people scan it and then like touch it up a little bit in Photoshop or something, because I don't think you're going to get that pure white, like the background on this, through a scanner.
Yeah,
It
right.
normally comes out sort of washed out and a little bit grey.
It depends on the scanner, right?
Yeah.
exactly. It depends on the scanner.
I guess
have
if you have
a-
like a high quality
Yeah.
scanner, it's probably going to work out better.
Yeah.
But I've got one of those all-in-one printer things, and that's not the best.
Yeah.
Like some of the stuff I've scanned for our show of like commissions I've gotten for you guys were kind of that grayish, but then other scans when my dad got a new scanner were bright white. So
Yeah.
Well, it depends on your scanner, quality of your scanner.
Yeah, plus, I mean, there's configuration options for scanners and stuff with like white balance. And,
Yeah.
also, if you do traditional work, you should really splurge on a nice scanner because it really matters.
Yes.
Yeah, you said you do.
If you're making really nice traditional work, if you're just practicing pony drawings, don't go buy a really nice scanner.
Yeah.
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 So
Or if you plan
burned.
on like hand drawing something and then scanning into the computer and then doing it digitally, you don't really need a good one either, because you can just go from the sketch, which is what I do.
Exactly.
Yeah. Snowburned, what exactly is a Copic marker? Because I'm not entirely sure, and I've heard about them.
So now I can't tell you the literal like what exactly a Copic marker is because I never use them, but I can tell you that a Copic marker is a nice, like actual nice marker. It is a nicer brand of marker. They have like thicker and wider heads on them to do nicer work, and the colors and inks blend into each other well. That's why this piece looks so really well blended, and like the legs especially. And like in the shadows and stuff like that, because Copic markers specifically do like kind of like blend and like kind of like watercolor, you know.
Okay.
So they have that kind of they blend together well, and they're really nice markers. Now, I'm not sure if Copic is the brand or if Copic is the type of marker.
Copic
is
is
a
a
brand.
brand. Copic is a brand. I
Brand?
was just about to interject, but Copic is a brand of Japanese markers. That, like you said, it's just a very good quality, so it's started to become known. Kind of like, you know, if you've got a Wacom tablet, or a Wacom, depending on how you pronounce it, that's not a type of tablet, that's a brand, but people start associating with it because it's just good quality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Band-Aids.
Yeah, exactly.
Kleenex.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, no, I'm pretty sure this was done with actual Copic markers.
Yep.
And yeah, it's interesting to think about like using markers as kind of a drawing tool, especially when you get into kind of the similarities to watercolor, because you're working with ink, and so ink can run and ink can also blend and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So-
but the markers that you've probably traditionally used and the stuff that most people have used are not good quality markers, right? You know,
Right.
they're thicker or they bleed a lot, and so those are, you know, when you have to think about markers can be a huge wide variety of things, not just the ones that we see from like whatever, is it Crayola that makes those
Yeah.
crappy ones
Yeah,
that are
those
in schools?
crappy kid markers
Yeah.
that everyone knows.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a huge wide variety of them. The thing that really amazes me is kind of like how high quality they can go. Because, again, like you don't have a lot of exposure to it unless you're using them. So to see something like this background with the blending and the individual kind of spots that go in there, you know, you've got spots on top of spots, and there doesn't seem to be a huge amount of, you know, like seeping into each other. That's
It's
really
because
cool
some
to see.
pigments are stronger than others, by the way.
Yeah, it's really, I think, you know, it really amazes me because, again, I don't have that experience using the markers themselves.
Yeah.
But in areas that, like I was saying, the legs are probably the best example. And also in like parts of the feathers as well. The artist, Frosty Cat, really plays like really well with that whole blending with the Copic markers. Because since they are a nicer marker, they help you blend a little bit better. And they have different grades of gray as well. So like shades of gray.
Okay.
So there are multiple markers for shades of gray as well. So it's not just mixing like color into color. There's like 12 steps of grays, which is really cool.
Looking them up, there's 358 different colors for Copic markers.
Wow.
Like they're professional grade illustration markers.
Yeah, and they're designed to be blended as well. So they help, like they don't run like you see with most of like the cheaper ones that you just use in schools and that sort of stuff. They're professional pens. They're designed to be blended.
Yep.
Industry standard.
Yeah. And if you go through Frosty Cat 13's gallery, you can see a lot of work that she's done with these markers, and they all look fantastic.
Yeah,
it's great.
I would imagine that with Copic markers, you would also need to have some special type of paper, probably like a thicker paper.
Like a thicker sketch paper.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to use it's just sketchpad paper. So like it's a thicker, higher pound paper, because normal printer paper is something obviously like it wouldn't absorb well.
Right.
So.
Higher GSM.
Before we move on, I just wanted to point out that I really love the way that Frosty Cat does wings, especially with the medium-like markers.
Feathers.
Yeah.
And it's a really cute style too. Which Gryphon is this again? Did we say?
Genevieve.
Genevieve. Okay,
that's the fandom's name or whatever.
Wow, Sean's much.
I don't remember what the other one's called. And again, these are just fandom names, so subject to change based on popularity.
Yeah.
Stepping away from Copic markers, actually, I really, really like the white gel pen, because that's really a huge issue when you're doing something that's traditional, is that if you don't specifically leave highlights out, there's not a lot of ways to get white, like specular highlights on something. But you can see these really super awesome white highlights all over Genevieve, like in the wings and in like her head and everywhere. And that's done with, apparently, like she says it right here, which is really cool. I'm glad she did. But Copic Multiliners white gel pen. So that's cool, and I want one, even though I don't draw in markers. I want one. That's really cool. So, and it's also done really well. It adds a really, really nice touch.
Yeah. All right, so we do have to move on to our next piece, which is called Me Likey by Atrill, who has this amazing style that we talk on and on and on about.
Blur to blur. You know, I think... Looking back on it, I probably should have placed this one first, just because this piece was kind of in here to talk about these Gryphons in general. But yeah, let's talk about the Gryphons in general. Now, I know Atrill really, really, really enjoyed these characters, and I think, you know, in general, a lot of people enjoyed the design of these characters. The contrasting colors and the way that they kind of complement and bounce off of each other is really, really interesting. And I really do enjoy that kind of color scheme. And you can see, like, for example, that their colors match up often with each other. So if you look at the, let's call them highlights, right? So on the white Gryphon, which I don't remember, but on the white Gryphon, her dark spots are kind of like a reddier color, you know? And if you notice, that matches up exactly with the other one's eyes.
Yeah.
And if you look at the highlights of the darker Gryphon, Genevieve, who's got like it's kind of like gray highlights, it matches up perfectly with the white Gryphon's eyes. And that was completely done intentionally by Atrill, I have no doubt. He's got a great eye for detail, and you know, he kind of took this aspect of contrast and symmetry, and he related it even more between the two characters.
Yeah. And like you were saying, it has kind of a yin and yang feel to it, especially because they're not really opposites of each other, but you know, the color schemes are kind of complementary in a way. Because you have the lighter white Gryphon and you have the darker black Gryphon. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you notice a lot of the time that characters that appear side by side have contrasting colors like that, or have the opposite colors. Like the eyes will be the same but different. Like with those cheerleaders that came up in that same episode.
Yeah,
they're opposite colors of each other, or not opposite, but they're like the highlights become the main and the etc.
Yeah. Well, that's why you see so many different pairs of characters appearing throughout the show, is that their colors kind of work together. So like Lyra and Bon Bon, for instance, you see them together quite a bit just because of their color schemes kind of go together.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of times when you look at something individually, it can completely change the meaning when you look at it with something else, because context plays a huge part in interpreting color, mood, and just generally how you look at something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Anyways, I'm not sure if anyone else had stuff to say about the Gryphons. We're not really going to talk about a Trill style. We've had him on the show.
Yeah.
There's an interview. You can go listen to that. And also, it's a Trill.
Yeah.
It's worth noting, though, that, like we've said many times on the show, that it does have that unique style, because we tried to highlight it in actually our style episode. Because there are those artists out there where you look at them and you see it and you think like, oh, a Trill. And it's funny because recently we've been seeing a lot of artists who are actually imitating and taking a lot of influence heavily from a Trill's work. So we see that and we think like, oh, like clearly this artist is using a Trill like influences because of said styles or choices they make in their work. So
yeah, there's been more and more artists that I've been noticing where I'll look at an art piece and be like, oh, that looks like something made by oh no, it's not. Because people did take inspiration.
A lot of those really unique, influential pony artists out there that people will take inspiration from, and the Trill's definitely one of them.
When we first kind of started this show, we kind of talked about the fact that probably the most recognizable person in terms of the art fandom would be someone like a John Hoseko, right? I think, honestly, a year and a half later, that's probably changed. I would say, at least personally, I feel like a Trill is probably the most recognizable style for the most amount of people.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I would also say
I think he's really stepped up his game and has really started, solidifying his style as something that everyone recognizes and now everyone knows.
He's the new John Hoseko.
When we spoke to him, when we interviewed him, that's what he said he's been doing. He said he's been working on his own style for up until the time that we talked to him. So he's found that he's finalized his style, and that's what he's been doing. So he hasn't been changing.
And he's constantly like making little tweaks to it too, though.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that you can look at something like
big anymore.
Yeah, it's amazing you can look at something like this. This is a Gryphon piece, right? So like if this was just something he did with ponies, right? Then if this Gryphon piece, you might not be able to tell. But this immediately speaks as a Trill piece to me.
Yeah.
Like, no doubt in my mind, I immediately look at it. And so there is obviously some real work that he's put in to all of his art to try and get it to fit a certain style.
Yeah.
And he's done a great job.
What I've actually been impressed with in his work is he's been getting more adventurous with colors. So, like, most of his colors in, like, his older work was relatively simple, and kind of generic. And then it started moving into kind of like a grittier, like, more neon feel. And now, in like the past, since like the beginning of this year or so, he's been making some really, really, really uniquely colored work. So like his skill as a colorist and like coloring in color schemes and stuff have also been getting a lot better, especially like even in this piece. It's very muted, it's very toned down, and everything and all the colors match a specific tone and nothing really stands out,
Mm-hmm.
And I could even go as far to say that the green in the background is complementary to the red in the Gryphons and things like that. So like the Gryphon on the left has muted red in her wings and in her claws, and even the Gryphon on the right has kind of pink blended into, or kind of like a dull reddish color blended into her wings as well. And like the whole piece basically has a lot of red blended into it. And then you have actually green and red both blended together in the background. So it's like he's not just making this really cool, unique style. He's also having a very cool and unique use of color in his work as well. That's also starting to come out, slowly come out of his work that I feel like I'm recognizing him for more.
Yeah.
And one last thing I wanted to point out was the fact that you talked about those colors, and I talked right at the very beginning about the matching colors with the eyes and the complements between the two characters. I would like to point out that to anyone who says that wasn't a stylistic choice, go and look at the Gryphons. These aren't their normal eye colors. He's specifically done this because, they are similar, but they're very, very muted to the point where they match each other. So this is a conscious decision made by him to say, I want these two Gryphons to match each other, not just to have like contrast, but to actually have similar colors between the two.
Yeah.
Because of the choices he made, they physically do reflect each other. So
Yeah. Yep. All right, so we're going to move on to our next piece, which is called On Feathered Grounds by Assassin Monkey, who's a big fan of the show. So hi, Assassin Monkey.
Shout out to Assassin Monkey.
Yeah.
Yet again.
We do this every week.
Yeah, I know, every single week now. No, so this is a piece of Twilight and a griffin. Not sure what the griffin's name is.
Doesn't seem to say.
It doesn't
That
say.
other griffin.
That other griffin.
The
yeah.
big griffin.
Set inside of a landscape piece, which is really fantastically done. Assassin Monkey does a lot of these like big sweeping landscapes, and he does them. He's gotten really good at them.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Assassin Monkey is about detail work, right? You know, like that's his biggest thing, and I think his biggest strength is in his details and in his kind of you know, shortening things down like fur and feathers and making them a reality where other people just make assumptions with them, you know? So he spends a lot of time on things, and that's why a lot of it doesn't always translate to ponies super well. But when he starts going into stuff like Gryphons, you know, he's done a lot of Gryphon pieces. It really, really shines. You know, seeing the individual feathers in this kind of piece is a huge, you know, game changer. And that also translates a lot to his backgrounds as well, because his backgrounds aren't very vague usually. They're pretty detailed as well. So, you know, in a piece like this, it really, really helps it stick out, and it gives the characters that much more detail, and his propensity to add detail is really a good choice in this situation.
Yeah, I love the wings on both the Griffin and on Twilight in this piece. I know, just like because they're so well on the Griffin, especially because they're so majestic and big and like. You know, the show kind of pares it down because the show's style is supposed to be very simplistic, but like this just makes this griffin look very regal, and it kind of does and fuzzy. It does a good job of kind of giving the whole piece kind of a tone or a mood, just you know the different expressions and the different stances of the two characters too. So.
He's given that griffin like the monkey tail, like he always does.
Yeah.
Because
well, I mean,
monkey.
it's similar to lion tail, right?
Yeah.
I guess, yeah. Actually, no, that makes sense, yeah. I hadn't actually thought
I believe it's left ambiguous at the angle it's at.
I always forget with griffins that they're half lion.
Yeah, right.
I just look at it. I'm like, look, big birdie. And because I see their face,
strong, four-legged bird.
Yeah, I was like, look, because I always see like the face and then the claws, and I go, big birdie, and then I see like the butt, and I'm like, wait, that's a lion butt. That doesn't make sense to me.
That doesn't add up.
Yeah, so that always confuses me. But no, it absolutely it is. It's a lion tail, so
yeah,
it's not pony hairy tail. It's different.
I like with those cliffs in the background, like it's with the bird face and the cliffs, where it's like. The gates to their lands, like it's very Lord of the Rings-esque to me. Like if you remember the second movie or the first movie where they're floating down the river and they see the big guys guarding Gondor, big statues. It's like that. Like it's the gates to their realm.
Yeah, definitely. It's a really cute way to spell out the narrative for this piece, too, because the title being On Feathered Grounds, there's kind of this story being told, and having giant griffin statues in the background and Twilight being so timid with this giant griffin figure, it gives this a lot of feeling to this little narrative being told.
Yeah.
Like she's come to visit the king of the griffins in his land.
Yeah.
Those
You're on feathered grounds, pony.
those cliffs are very Griffin Hokage. Yes, I did just make that reference on the show. You're welcome. I'm glad to spread it. All right. Yeah. Like it does tell a very good story, it's I don't know. I feel like the ponies in Assassin Monkey's work either get me or they don't. And I think this one really does get me, and I do get the emotion that he's trying to convey, and it does kind of give off this sense of trepidation and intimidation, right? Because obviously that griffin is freaking huge.
Yeah.
It's funny, he notes in his description that he was relating the Gryphon size to how Twilight relates to Celestia. So how much larger Celestia is to Twilight. So he was thinking Gryphon or Gilda's relation to like a higher figure Gryphon. So he kind of used that as like a size scale.
Gryphon King.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Gryphon.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, it's interesting, like the artistic choices you can take when you're kind of trying to think a little bit outside of the box. Like with this one, I think Assassin Monkey in his description is basically saying that he was wondering about the lands outside of Equestria, like the Griffin Kingdoms and stuff like that. So it's kind of, you know, his imagination of what this kingdom would look like, and so that's kind of a cool little connection there, just on the size of the characters.
And I would like to point this out again, because I've been doing this recently with pieces to again bring attention to the colors used, because there's like obviously green in the background and on the grass like below the characters, but there's also like that bright red complement used in the eyes of the Griffin, and then in like the flag on the staff and little spear in the background there. So those really like those strongly stand out in the piece because of that green and red relation. And even the brown on the Griffin is reddish, so it kind of stands out from that green.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to say it was a really smart decision to make the grass underneath Twilight a little bit more yellowy. It's kind of like a yellowy green, if you notice. Because what is it? Violet or yellow is the opposite of violet. It's a complement to violet.
Mm-hmm.
So having a slightly more yellowy green makes her pop a lot more as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm always curious to know how many of those like decisions like the artist like takes in.
Well, we
purposely or does consciously. You know?
Well, we could
a lot
ask
of the times it can be
Assassin Monkey,
implicit.
Tell us.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the times
Yeah.
those decisions
We'll have
can
to
be
ask him.
implicit too, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh, this is purple, I should put yellow down there. Not saying that's a bad thing. Sure, do that. But sometimes people can have a real knack for that kind of stuff. And people who make the best colors kind of have that knack where they look at the purple and they go, oh, well, what would be the best there? Yellow. They don't necessarily think, oh, yeah, yellow is the complement of purple.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's why I was really curious about it, because like as a colorist or a color theorist, like if you're actually like taking color theory or studying it, like you do start to consciously make those decisions. But if you're just like an experienced artist and you start to make art or pony art or whatever, there is a certain extent where you do start to realize like what looks good or what reacts good, whether you understand like the theory behind it or not. So that's why I'm curious. It was just like a subconscious thing towards like this sunlighted grass on this hill should be more yellowy. And it just happened to work out with a violet pony. Mm-hmm. Or how much like actual conscious decision went into something like that. But I feel like Assassin Monkey is skilled enough to where I'd have to give him some kind of credit.
Yeah.
To make those decisions consciously.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I mean, he does have a work in progress too, which kind of outlines similar colors and kind of, you know, shows his process a little bit. Assassin Monkey's great about giving work in progress shots like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, what's so is super cool to me is how he uses, like he starts out in base value in black and white. I love that because it gives all of his pieces such a like an old school traditional feel, just like a really super classical feel, and it ends up being really, really awesome.
I do love looking through his work in progress just to kind of see what steps was taken and how he goes from the kind of the base value black and white to a colored piece and then back to the value to kind of tweak things and then back to the color, and he kind of keeps shifting back and forth between them to kind of tweak the piece till he gets it right.
Yeah,
And
so
certain composition changes as well. I mean, you look through the thing and suddenly there's a spear that appears in the foreground and then there's a tree off to the left. You know, the tree doesn't appear until like the last two kind of frames that he's taken here. So there's a lot of, these work in progress things are great if you're an aspiring artist, because you can see along the way, maybe you won't necessarily perfectly see why he did it, but you can see that at some point he decided, I need something to frame this a little bit better.
Yeah.
So he added a tree in there.
Yeah, you can see his compositional choices with like the spears, because it just kind of starts out and it's non-existent, and then eventually he builds to this like archway that leads to where Twilight came from. You notice that the trees and the spear actually end up framing that huge valley that we think that Twilight would have walked in from, which actually is a really cool decision compositionally. Words are hard.
Yeah.
And you can see initially he had a second Griffin there behind the big one, which got removed. You
one
move
of the
stuff around and
Yeah. One other thing about work in progress that I find really cool is that it kind of gives you a history of the piece that you're working on. So you can kind of go back and see, like, even as the artist, if you're not like looking at the work in progress to learn about it, you can just kind of go through and see like, oh, that's the step that I took there. And, it's like snapshots. It's kind of cool.
Assassin Monkey, why are you so good?
All right. So we have to move on to our last piece, which is called North Gryphonia by Equestria Prevails. And this is definitely a digital piece, more show accurate style.
it's vector as well. Equestria Prevails works primarily in vector.
Yeah.
And we do like to bring up vector, and Equestria Prevails is one of those, what I would call an advanced vector artist, working, off of less tracing and more original, that kind of thing, whereas a lot of people will think of vectors and they'll think just, the resource side of it. But Equestria Prevails does a great job of adding extra stuff into there too, shading and original art and stuff like this that you'll never find in the show. None of these Gryphons are ever in the show ever.
Yeah.
So they're completely new.
Yeah. It's from left to right. It's apparently Darius II, Alex the First, Rosas the Second, and Cassandra the First.
So, I wanted to bring up a point last piece, but we didn't really have the time for it, and I wanted to at least show this one. And I realized that I could talk about it a little bit in this piece as well. And what I wanted to bring up a little bit was, when we talk about giving a piece a story behind it, I think it's important to note to aspiring artists that you have to learn how to create a story without resorting to typing text. Because descriptions of art pieces are great for a lot of things, including expanding on your story. But I feel personally that most of the time, you should be able to convey a good enough story to your viewer just based on what they see in the art. And if they're interested in a little bit more detail, they'll be able to look down below. I think the last art piece that Assassin Monkey did was really good at that. He did a great job of conveying some information. And then if you want to learn more, he went, okay, well, here's a little bit of my headcanon in the comments. Mm. And I think in a similar way, you can kind of see through the characterization in these characters, you can already kind of tell personality-wise, situations around them, they look like royalty because of the environment that they're in, and you could probably tell their personalities based on the characterizations that they had. So I think that's a really good point to make, because sometimes you can get artists who have an idea and they make an art piece and then they type out like a huge thing in the description that is meant to describe it. But I think art pieces should be able to stand on their own.
Yeah, that's inherently the point of art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
a picture tells 1,000 words.
Yeah. Well, it's like if you go to an art museum, there's maybe a little bit of a description about what medium was used or about the artist in general, but the piece of art is all that the artist has to tell the story. So it's nice on DeviantArt because you can kind of amend to that story, like little details and stuff with your description text. But definitely the art piece it should be focused on telling the story. And in this piece, I mean, like you were saying, you can kind of tell, what kind of personalities these characters have and like what their status is in the society and everything like that, just based on their expressions and the clothing and the things that are around them. Yeah. Also, that smaller Gryphon is so cute.
Look at its face.
I know.
Yeah, I personally, it's a bit anthro for me. Personally, but I mean, it's a good point to bring up too that this isn't just straight up Gryphon. It's also kind of anthro Gryphon too.
It's also a lion.
Mm-hmm. Well, how they're standing and existing is
Gryphon is
Gryphon
lion.
is half lion. Yeah,
it's also lion.
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, I guess there is kind of a status quo for what a Gryphon should be, but since it is half bird and half lion, I guess they could stand on their hind legs or I don't know.
And I mean, we haven't seen a lot of them too, right?
Yeah.
Not a lot about their culture, not a lot about their design in general in the show. So it's very open-ended.
Yeah.
Yeah. What A Crusher Prevails does really awesomely, though, is kind of craft this other world or other universe. I'm not really sure if all the work that he does is based off of fanfic. I have to imagine it is. I mean, the stuff that he creates is so ridiculously
Detailed.
in-depth.
I believe he does a lot of work relating to fanfics, but not all of it.
Yeah.
Because he has a lot of these like more Gryphon works and like kind of medieval esque pieces. Like he has another piece in his gallery with it's like a giant battle scene between like Pegasi rather, and Gryphons. I mean, and just some really, really cool stuff and like bar scenes, you name it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's definitely taken the MLP universe and kind of extended on it quite a bit.
Kind of crafted his own, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's very iconic and well known for that as well. So
Yeah.
this is definitely one of the artists that's iconic in the fandom, and you should really take the time to go look at his work.
Yeah, he's been around for a while too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, ever since I've been around, so before my time.
Yeah.
Dang! And you're old.
I know, Burn.
I know.
Burn.
I'm like
But he's the youngest one out of all of us.
3-year Brony old.
What?
Jeez.
Wait, just a second. Atmospark, did you really just say he was the youngest out of all of us?
Yeah, but then I thought, yeah, no, that's not true.
How old do you think I am? I'm by
Aren't you, like,
far the youngest
14?
out of all of you.
What?
I'm a year and a half younger than Burned, and Burned is like 3 years younger than you guys.
I'm here.
I'm like 22.
He's 22. I'm almost 25.
So you're 2.5 years older than me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm almost 20.
Suck it.
I don't care.
The size of my Zachary.
Oh my goodness. It's a
and on that
thing.
note, on that note, let's go to the questions.
Okay, I got some questions here. A couple people sent some in this week, so that was good. Thank you very much.
Sweet.
I've got...
Sweet. They're awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are cool.
Yay.
Not all people, just the people who send in questions.
Just the people sending questions.
Okay, so first question I've got here
Specifically
is,
you.
if your OCs became power ponies, what would their costumes look like? Sent in by DualShock. I believe, Flutter Guy, you wanted this question in, so what was yours? What's your answer?
I did, but I don't have an answer for it yet.
Okay, then I have something to stall with, because
Okay.
a couple of weeks ago we talked about what would your supervillain power be,
Yeah.
and I talked about the fact that I want my character would just go around and like make people uncomfortable with temperatures, right? And I think someone came up with the villain name of global warming. And I thought that was really clever. So I wanted to give a shout out to whoever came up with the villain name for me of global warming, because I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
So I think personally, so you guys keep thinking about it. I'm stalling. Personally, I think that, again, the powers would relate back to the whole temperature thing. So I'm not like super creative. Like, what's the difference between a supervillain and a superhero other than the way that they use the powers? So,
Yeah.
I don't know. What would the costume look like? Something to do with ice and fire. There you go.
Yeah, I kind of get the feeling that your costume would be kind of a mix of blue and white, and maybe some red and some orange.
Maybe, yeah.
Just be a whole smattering of colors.
Well, it's the contrast between kind of like the blue and the orange, I think, is the
Yeah.
biggest thing.
Actually, it could look very similar to your cutie mark.
Yeah, when you think of fire and ice, it's blue and orange, so it's like
Yeah.
that. It would probably go into that kind of design with, again, fire and ice.
Yeah. Well, in terms of color, I think my costume would probably be kind of a lighter green or a blue, kind of like to match my OC's eyes or the cutie mark.
Oh my
But-
god, would you vector objects?
Oh my god, that would be fantastic.
Did you just like vector them in the air and then they become real?
Yeah.
Like the Green
This is
Lantern.
awesome.
Yes, it would be like, oh my god, yeah, that'd be so cool. I'd be like Rarity,
Caramel
but
lantern.
yeah.
Rarity in that one episode was Vector.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't just be like, oh, there like a Disney movie or something where like it was like a magic paintbrush and like you could draw things that came to life. I can't remember. I might be just making.
That was an
like-
episode of SpongeBob.
maybe.
But
I might.
Do you mean like the video game, like Mickey Mouse?
Maybe.
oh,
Yeah.
yes.
I might also just be making something up, but that'd be so cool. Like to just kind of vector stuff and then like it appears.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh no, that building is falling on that group of people. Let me sit down and pull out my tablet so I can draw something that will save them.
yeah.
No, mouse and keyboard.
Slowest hero ever.
Mouse and keyboard master race.
Tablet.
For vectoring?
Gross.
Yeah, tablet's
That was
great for
bad.
vectors. I didn't think
was
it was
You're like
until
one
I
of
was
those
turned onto it.
professional.
Ert, Merce,
one of those-
Burke.
You're like one of those professional gamers who use a ball track mouse. Super hipster.
No, I use my tablet for gaming too.
Yep.
All right, one of you two pick
What
one.
what kind of games like Mario Paint?
No, shut up. No, this is
my-
not continuing. Enough of
Okay,
this.
my-
So, we give you plenty of time to stall.
I know Rainbow Plasma said that superpowers, supervillains are like the same thing, just the same powers, just use one for good, one for
I say
evil.
they
But
have to be.
I'm going to go against that. I'm going to go completely differently because my supervillain was something pun destroy the world something. My superpower, if I had a choice to get one, would be flight / something fire. So like I was thinking, that guy from Fantastic Four. What's his name?
Human
Oh.
Torch.
Yeah.
Human Torch.
Doesn't you? But
Human
this is a
Torch, yeah.
power pony. Wouldn't like that completely go against your cutie mark?
No, but yeah, but I guess. Well,
All right, he's the Human
my
Torch.
cutie mark is
Going to
white,
allow
so
this.
Storm from X-Men, I guess.
Yeah.
There you go.
So I
Well,
guess
it's fine,
white
yeah.
and I don't know.
And screw the costume design.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I'd get.
But what about
I get
fashion?
Scoodly to make me a costume.
Yeah.
Fashion.
Burned.
Lights,
No, Sweetie Belle, she made them.
Would your costume just like be consisting of a bunch of mirrors?
The ability to summon mirrors
ability to summon mirrors.
to look at beautiful things.
Oh, thank you, Burnt. I didn't know you felt that way about
I
me.
don't know.
Other people?
It'd probably just be some like normal superhero suit thing, but probably blue because my character is gray, or something blatantly obnoxious like a bright orange
Okay.
Yeah. Gotta
to go against the blue.
go with the eye color for contrast.
No, something more contrasting, like a.
Well, it would contrast my hair if it was bright orange, and if you want to contrast my eyes.
Well, no, I was
then
just
it would
saying a
need
lot
to
of times
be-
you can match up the eyes because the eyes are like a little thing meant to stand out.
yeah.
Hmm.
Or you could, if you want to make the eyes stand out, then I guess you could make what is it? Purple outfit. With, oh well, then now I'm in a Joker outfit.
So, Bernd, I just wanted to bring up the fact that for some reason I thought of a superpower for your pony, and I thought it would be cool if your pony could like turn into shadows. So
Because
like you
that
could
pony.
you could turn into a shadow and then like hide in someone else's shadow, and like you could sneak past a lot of people and like have like a huge amount of stealth.
hmm
I thought that would be cool because you're a bad pony.
Then it would be like a Raven-esque costume,
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's so Raven.
that'd be cool.
and then now it's back to the blue theme.
There you go.
I could live with that.
Cool. All right.
Okay, so we
'Cause
will
I'm
have
so
our
dark and
answers.
mysterious.
Fan out of that coming out next week. Okay, so next question. Between a simpler minimalistic style or minimal style like the show or a very refined detailed painting, which do you think is the best at showing emotions? Sent in by Rain Gear.
This is a question for me, isn't it?
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think it's the details. Like, I think a detail is completely different from, like, showing emotion. I mean, it has an effect on it. It can definitely have an effect on it. But I don't think inherently a more detailed painting or a less detailed painting would show emotions better. I think that's really up to the artists themselves at how much they want to express the emotions.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I am a big fan of like minimal or less like less is more is a big thing of mine. I love that, which is why I'm so into vectors, I guess. So I believe if you're able to show as like all that emotion in something so simple and so minimal, then it's much more effective to me. So if you
Okay, you agreed with me and then completely didn't.
No.
He does.
Not the best at showing, but more effective.
Right, and I say neither.
I'm
So
saying
you-
I'm not saying it's better. I'm saying it gets me more. Like,
okay.
there's a different emotion in a character is better in minimal for me, but emotion for overall is better with detail for me.
You know you're allowed to disagree with me, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like, I'm not going to, like, tie you up. Like, you can disagree with me. I'm clarifying
Can
because
you tie me up?
Don't believe
my
him.
point of
He's-
view.
Don't believe him. He's just he just wants to tie you up.
Because what I'm
tie me
saying
up?
is,
Don't admit it.
my point of view is completely that it has no effect whether or not it's detailed or whether or not it's minimal. So if you feel differently about that, that's fine. But you're not agreeing with me. What you're saying right there is not the same thing.
Okay, well then you're wrong and I'm right.
It's an opinion.
There you go.
I think the point here to make is that it is possible to create strong emotion regardless of whether the style is detailed or not. Obviously, an obvious point is that if something is too oversimplified and too minimalistic, as far when you start stepping more simple than the show, it becomes a little harder to show complex emotions. But it's the same thing if you become too detailed. Sometimes emotion gets lost in the detail.
Yeah.
So like some of Zion with an M.
Yeah.
Zion
With an M.
Zion. Zion 05's work. It has extraordinary amounts of detail, and sometimes the emotions of the piece can sort of get lost in this crazy reality that's being built. But it's crazy cool, don't get me wrong. And there's a lot more depth to things going on. But if you're looking to express just a deepness of a single emotion, sometimes things can get too busy or too muddled and lost. Because the more detailed you get, the more emotions you're trying to convey, if that makes sense.
Well, I think if you're trying to make a piece really detailed, it might get busy. I mean, really good artists can make a piece really detailed without it getting busy, but the viewer may focus on other things than the raw emotions of the piece. So,
well, another thing is in the point of this question, it's between a simple style like the show and then a refined digital style. What do you think's better at showing emotions? The whole point of cartoons is that they're amazing at actually showing emotions. That's the point of the simple style of the show and cartoons in general, is that simple features on that we visually recognize as a face, we connect with strong emotions. So the show is basically that simple style that we can visually recognize with emotions. So as soon as you start stepping away from that and going into detailed paintings, you're kind of muddling it a bit, but it's just a different style. As long as we can still recognize expressions, there's no more greater emotion there or something, or better, I'd say. I don't know, but you get what I mean, right? That's the point of cartoons and simple expressions, is we simply connect with that expression. If we're talking about just a still digital shot, or a not the show specifically, it's animation, that's a whole nother realm.
yeah.
But as far as digital painting, I feel there is sort of a realm where if you start adding specific details about things, there can be more emotional depth in the piece, but there's also things to completely prove that wrong. But art's never a matter of fact kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I kind of want to argue that point, Burned, just because, not that I think it's wrong, but I think just in terms of our question here, I would argue that, the cartoons are simplified, but it's not inherently the simplification which gives it the aura of more emotions. I would say that, when
it's not that it's more emotions, it's that it's easily recognizable emotions.
But I think part of it is that when you get into more realistic, quote unquote, and the more detailed stuff, details tend to, not always, but they tend to focus more on things like realistic scenarios. And the more realistic you get, the less extreme emotions you want to convey. So again, I wouldn't necessarily say that less details
see,
is better for that.
there's-
It's just traditionally speaking, when people do less details, they also focus on giving a wider spectrum of
Easy
emotions.
now, because that's also now we're defining details as making something like more
I
realistically
didn't say that.
detailed.
I didn't say that, and you can't pull that on me. No, I totally
That's what
did
you
not
just
say.
said.
I
You
did not
said
say
normally
it.
when things end up getting more detailed, they start going more towards realistic or something of
Did
that
I
nature.
say that all of them do that? No, I just said that.
You said generally, but that's a way of walking around everything.
No, generally says that there are obvious exceptions to this rule, but a lot of people think this way, that as you get more detailed, you will start going more realistic. Because admit it, not that many people make non-detailed stuff that are trying to go for realism. They don't.
I know. That point aside, what another point is that if you're another way of creating details is not in realistic fashions, but it would also be in like colorist fashions. Like there's a lot of emotions that can be shown with depths of like uses of color or expressive brushwork and things like that. Like that, I technically count that as details. So like there's a whole nother realm of like expressiveness that can't be grasped with something as simple as show style, if you know what I mean.
I guess we have different
There's a whole
definitions
nother
of
realm
details
there.
as well, too, which makes sense. I just wanted to say at the end of the day, I believe that there is a lot of correlation between simpler, more cartoony things and bigger, more obvious emotions. I think there's a correlation there, but I don't think that is causation. I think it's correlation.
Fair enough.
You lost me.
It's, yeah, basically we can see it, but it's probably not because of the
It's not
details.
because it's simpler. It just,
Yeah.
they go hand in hand, so
Yeah.
you'll see it a lot more. Anyways, it's not something that we should talk about for 20 more minutes.
Yeah.
It's an opinion.
What? Why?
It's an opinion.
Aw.
What's the point of good questions?
Well, it was a good question,
is a good
and we all
question.
managed to get our opinions out, so
Yeah.
there you go.
Well, I mean, some of us didn't, but yeah.
Do you have a big opinion that's differing?
Well, not really, but I mean, it's basically the same kind of thing where it's like you can have strong emotions in a detailed piece, and you can also have strong emotions in a simple piece. And I feel like what Brandon was saying is that more complex emotions require more detail in a piece. Like you can have raw emotions, like in the show in Party of One, like you can definitely feel the raw emotion, like raw sadness and stuff like that. But the whole like the duality, like emotions of duality, like for instance nostalgia or something like that, I feel like it requires a little bit more detail to kind of, and maybe a little bit of a backstory too. But yeah.
And see, now I want to keep poking the thing I was talking about with like expressive brushwork or things like that. Like, yeah.
Nah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Anyway.
Good discussions all around. I like discussions that don't end in a consensus when we have opinionated discussions, because like we're not wrong. No one's wrong here. I think we all just have different perspectives of things.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Which is good.
it's good. You get to see a lot of different perspectives.
Yeah.
But in the end, Burns always right.
That's just like your opinion, man.
Just joking.
Oh,
Anyhow.
right.
Just joking.
Let's
Plugs.
move on to
Joking.
the plugs.
Ploogies.
Okay, plugs. So we have a DeviantArt page, which is cuteartcrusaders.deviantart.com. We have... What else do we have? YouTube. No, not YouTube. We have Facebook, which is Cutie Art Crusaders on Facebook. So go like us there. Twitter, which is @CutieArtCrusade. So go follow, click that little button, and email us the one, which is cutieartcrusaders@gmail.com. So go there, or don't go there. Send us stuff like photos
Questions
of yourself,
and artwork.
as well as questions.
Don't do that.
No, do that. We like to have a little giggle.
What?
That was mean. I'm sorry.
Just cut that out.
Please send us photos of yourself so we can laugh at you because we're great people.
We really are. Send
the
us
heck?
questions. Yeah, because we need more, because we had 2 people sending questions in the last, 2 weeks. So, yeah.
We're hungry for your questions.
Yeah.
Very hungry.
Sweet.
I'm craving them.
Yep. So our theme for next week is listed right here. So be sure to come back next week and check out that theme.
I don't want to
And we
make a
also
theme
have
for
a
next week.
We also have a spoiler cast after this for the latest episode of MLP.
I don't want to do a
It's so
spoiler
good.
cast. I'm
Can
lazy
we like
today.
mix it up on a week and do like a Pound Puppy spoiler cast?
No. No.
No.
Absolutely not.
Just like
what is it? The
That's a surprise.
That's the bottom
Aqua-
line. No, it's the bottom line. No.
No.
Aquabats spoiler cast.
The
No.
two loudest people on the podcast have said no to
the
this.
SpongeBob spoiler cast.
Let's stop.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Whether or not you're on the live stream sitting by
We
yourself,
love you all the same.
or on YouTube, we love you all the same. Thank you, Burned, for
My name's Rainbow Plasma.
participating in this episode. It was good having you around, but you've officially been
Thanks.
cut.
Oh, damn it, not
You've
again.
been voted off the podcast.
Damn you,
You have been
Skipsy.
voted off the podcast, and you know what your transportation vehicle is going to be?
Please bring me your torch. The tribe has spoken. You are the weakest link, etc.
My name's Burn.
My name is Rainbow Plasma,
I'm Flutterguy317.
And I'm Atmos Park.
and that was a seamless ending. Love you. See you guys next week.
Bye.
Hello and welcome to the 11th spoiler cast for Season 4 of My Little Pony done by the Cutie Art Crusaders. Today we are spoiler casting My Little Pony Season 4 Episode 12, Pinky Pride. But first, my name is Flutterguy317 and today I am joined by Burndo1
Hi.
and Atmospark.
Sup?
So this episode was Pinky's key episode, I think, if the whole rainbow key theory is to be believed, which I think it is.
Ah,
Yeah, but
Sure.
it was a fantastic episode.
This is, I think, my favorite episode ever.
Yeah. Well, first off, Weird Al guest starred in it, so that is
have
phenomenal.
we even had a guest star before?
I mean, John Delancey, but
Oh, well,
well,
he doesn't even
knows-
count
who knows who
anymore.
he
He's
is,
like
right?
now like pretty much like another main sub character.
yeah,
He's
kind
not
of
just like a
regular.
guest
Nobody even
voice
knew who
actor.
he was before
He
Pony,
was
so-
a guest voice actor when he was there for that one episode, but then he was like, you know what, I'm gonna keep coming back and be part of the fandom kind of thing.
Yeah,
So like that was completely super awesome
yeah.
for him to be a part of the show. So now Weird Al being a guest like voice actor,
Mm-hmm.
awesome. I also
And,
agree with Pinky Dash that because of the fact of Weird Al taking a part in the series and because of how grandiose it was and like how ridiculous the animation was and over the top the singing is, it made this easily one of like the episodes I can say like this is probably one of my favorites.
Yeah.
This is my favorite, absolute my favorite episode of Pony. The fact that like they couldn't have found a better partner for Pinkie Pie for this episode.
Yeah.
There is nobody else that would be as good as Weird Al for that character.
Well, and the writers and the storyboard artists and stuff really played to Weird Al as kind of a person in his character, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They played to what he does best, which is all of his songs, which we'll get to later, is polka, which is what he is well known for.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he does all of this crazy stuff with a lot of the time with just his voice, because that's what he is known for, his songs and stuff.
Yeah.
So he
And
made
just-
it for a great voice actor
Yes.
because of it.
Absolutely. And just everything that was to do with his character was done so phenomenally well.
Yeah. Well, and
Made
everything
this amazing.
throughout the episode is really wacky, which is
Yeah.
phenomenal because it's a Pinkie Pie and a cheese sandwich, or Weird Al's characters. It's their episode. So
Oh, absolutely.
And arguably Rainbow Dash's.
yeah.
Eh.
Yeah. Well, it's like
Yeah.
the whole plot centers around her party,
Yeah.
but it is
Yeah, but it's not a
Pinkie
Rainbow
Pie
Dash-
centered episode, and then the antagonist is Sir Cheese Sandwich.
Yeah, well, they needed something for Pinkie Pie to have a crisis over, which is a party, and Rainbow Dash was conveniently available. But it's not. I don't feel like it was focused on her. It was every now and then. It's like she was in there for, I guess, the important to keep the story moving.
Yeah.
But it was a Pinkie centric episode.
Fair
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take over the role of Radioplasm for this one. All of the emotions in this episode were amazing. I like that first bit where it opens into the song, which happens in a lot of Pinky episodes, which is great, and then it goes from there to Cheese Sandwich coming in and taking over, and then during that one song, she goes from being happy, hey look, there's a cool new party pony here, and there's me, and we're gonna work together and be super cool, and then he takes over and she gets really, really sad towards the end, and then she has her own song about being sad. And at that point, I reached over and I grabbed my Pinky plushie.
Aww.
Because I held my Pinky plushie this whole episode, because the emotions in the song, seeing Pinkie Pie, who is normally a very, very happy, fun character, being so sad and down and out, it really, really hit me hard, because that's her thing.
Yeah.
She was doubting herself because of somebody else who is much more, I guess, extravagant and confident, I guess. Makes her feel less so and makes her feel not as good. And that really hit me. That spoke to me a lot, and it was great the way that they did that. And then one more song later, or in fact during that next song, she sees that, and then she looks back through all those photos in her hallway that she's kept of all the big turning points, the big moments in her life, which made her realize, wow, okay, I am actually really good at this, and it makes people happy, and it is something that I really, really enjoy. And she gets happy again. She realizes that she is good. She doesn't need. She's not less than somebody else because they are, in air quotes, better than she is. She's what she is. She is the best that she can be, and it's fantastic the way that the writers did that.
Yeah. Well, and Vernon and I were watching the episode again right before we recorded the spoiler cast, and we commented that in the song, like, it's so well done, because the key changes in the song as she's looking at the pictures, and like the whole kind of lighting and the mood and stuff like that changes. It's so
it starts
well done.
off as a lower, like, sadder key. How she's depicted is obviously sad. And so, like, everything from the visuals and especially to the music throughout the entire episode was amazing, especially in the key changes where it went from, like, a minor to a major. Right when after she saw those pictures and it started picking up, and then the tone of the song was then picked up. Like, it wasn't just an emotional roller coaster in the sense that you just described it, but it's just musically as well. So musically, visually, and, like, conceptually was just all around really awesome.
Yeah.
The songwriting and the design of those songs was phenomenal. This is a very, very well done episode.
Amy Keening Rogers who did all the lyrics in the writing for this episode.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah?
she did a bunch of the lyrics. I think her and Daniel Ingram worked together a lot, I think, on that kind of stuff.
On all the songs, I believe it said lyrics written by Amy Keening Rogers, and then music and everything by Daniel Ingram. So Daniel Ingram did all the music work, like key work, tone work, just lyrics were done by Amy Keening Rogers as the credit went.
Yeah. And it's fantastic that, like, again, they played into Weird Al being on the show, in that, like, they had quite a few polka-ish songs, which I guess we can get into the songs now, because there were quite a few of them.
Oh, yeah. It's like the episode was almost one big song.
Yeah.
Which I'm so very much okay with, because they were due for an episode like that.
It pretty much was just a giant, like, theatrical episode, because even when they weren't singing in the background, like the orchestra work that isn't in every episode of My Little Pony, which is always like a really amazing touch, it was really, like, over the top, done well for all of the emotions and things being played out in this episode when they were, like, fighting, when they were starting their goof off, and the emotions in there. It was all the background music and the orchestral music was done also just as well as the songs were, and they kept and flowed they not flew, but they flowed right. And I don't even know English.
What is words?
Yeah,
How do you speak?
whatever.
Yeah.
They went with the actual songs extraordinarily well. The orchestra work did.
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
definitely. Especially because there's a big Western theme throughout this whole episode, and so you get like the little like Foley kind of stuff with the what are they, the maracas or the something, and then you get like the spurs on the back of Pinky's boots and stuff, and it's just like
Yeah.
overall sound wise the episode was fantastic.
Yeah, and the references to High Noon and the dueling.
Yeah, and the 310 to Yuma reference.
Yeah.
So class.
Also, while Rainbow Plasma, Flutter Guy, and I were watching the episode, I'm the only one who got the cheese stands alone reference.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that?
Oh, yeah, well, there's a part in the, what is it, where Pinkie Pie was saying we should work together or something? Or no, I forget what the
it was
lyric
right. I think it was right before their
The goof off?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was saying, he said in quotes, like, the cheese has always stood alone or something like that along those lines. And that is a phrase from a nursery song, kid's song, The Farmer in the Dell, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The cheese stands alone. The cheese stands alone. I don't know. I just thought it was funny because like I heard that. I was like, I know that phrase.
Yeah.
Ironically from a magic card of all things.
The goof off was pretty well done too, like throughout the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah.
The
The way that they intertwined their two songs.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The way that, like, that's again something that Weird Al is quite good at. Like, he'll have multiple characters in his songs that he plays both of, and they work together really well.
Yeah.
His voice work was great.
Yes. So good. Oh, also the fact that he sang "Smile, Smile, Smile."
Yes,
Yeah.
he stole Pinky's song.
Yeah.
I would love to see him do some covers.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
A Smile cover by Weird Al. That'd be so good.
And that the cuts to real life animals, like the real life
Yeah,
scenes.
what the heck?
That's
Yeah.
also
That's the first time
quite
that's happened.
Weird Al.
What is it,
Yeah.
SpongeBob?
Yeah. That caught me back a little bit. It was like, what's going on? But it was funny.
Was that the
Yeah,
first
that
time
was
they've done
totally
that?
unexpected. I didn't expect that at all.
Yeah, that was the first time that they done that.
No, I feel like they
Oh.
did some kind of felt stuff in
No.
season 3 or something.
Yeah, that's right.
They did Felt in season 2.
That's right with
The felt check mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't really like along the same kind of lines though, so it's not
Yeah.
the best point, I guess.
Well, yeah. It's something. It's still like not. Well, I guess it's still art. Like
Yeah, it was still a tangible object and tangible like fabric, and it wasn't show style. So
yeah,
is that whole third wall gerblobble,
yeah,
Fourth wall.
fourth wall? Thank you.
yeah.
And Pinkie Pie did some amazing, adorable faces in this.
Yes. Oh my God, the faces. There were so many faces.
Just the expression
many
work in
faces.
general.
Mhm.
Like I was looking at the credits, and normally I don't look at the credits much, but it's only like a few storyboard artists. But I feel like because it's like they had Weird Al on this episode, and like it's a big deal. There was like every storyboard artist in the credits. It was like rah, there was like 20 storyboard artists.
Yeah.
It's like Sibsy being, I believe, the first name mentioned, and then going all the way down.
Yeah. Well, you were mentioning when we were watching it again that the animation was so fluid, like
yeah,
throughout.
way more
and stuff.
fluid than usual.
Yeah.
Like that, I really noticed it in there was a scene where Rainbow Dash was floating, like flying, and she physically had like a floating sense about her, and then everyone, like no one was stationary. Like sometimes in scenes they'll just have ponies sit there and like look or blink or something, but like none of them were stationary. They were all moving or doing some kind of motion, and like Rainbow Dash was floating, and I was like, that's ridiculous. Nothing on my screen is stationary.
Yeah.
And it like the whole like scene panned in, and all of the camera focus work, whatever that's called.
Oh yeah, the depth of field stuff.
Yeah, all the depth of how they played with the depth of field in like multiple scenes was really awesome as well. So it's just like the animation quality was ridiculously over the top.
Yeah, they've been doing that.
Well,
quite a
everything
bit.
about this episode. This is like, in my point of view, this is so far the pinnacle of MLP.
Yeah.
Well, like, because they've been
in my opinion.
we've been complimenting it like in every season. So like when season 2 came out, season 3 came out, we're like, oh, the animation's getting better, and then this season 4 we've been like, wow, it's like the best ever. And this episode by far has had some of the best animation, I believe, out of like the entire series as a whole.
Yeah.
Best
Like,
animation, best writing, best songs.
Yeah.
Well,
They outdid themselves, and I have nothing but praise.
yeah. I've got to say, like, MLP in general has always been a really good kind of show for the animation, especially like background animation stuff. Because if you go back and you watch like a lot of the older Disney TV animation, not necessarily movies, but like TV animation, a lot of the backgrounds are held constant, and there's not a lot of stuff going on in the background, just because it was very difficult to kind of animate that and whatnot. But with My Little Pony, you get like background characters that are moving and talking and stuff, and the whole scene comes alive. And they keep doing more and more with that. And I think they did a lot with this in this one, especially like in the beginning when Pinky's going through the town and picking up supplies for the party.
Yeah.
There's like
just everything. Like,
yeah.
just watch the episode over, look at the angles, like the angles of the camera, like the backgrounds, how characters interact with it, and like even background ponies, like they're still just background characters and they're kind of put there, but even like they have consideration. Just like everything was just really
Speaking of background characters, Philly background
Jarpy.
ponies.
Oh my god, yeah. And Derpy and
Philly
Philly.
Cloud Chaser doing a flip.
Yeah, there was also a Philly Bonbon wearing glasses, I think.
Yep.
Philly Bonbon, Philly Lara,
And
Fitter, Cloud Chaser, Derpy, Cheerily.
Philly Colgate wearing braces too.
Yes.
So future dentist work.
I grabbed my Philly Cloud Chaser plushie when I saw that.
Yeah, so cute. And there was a scene with Derpy in the literally in the chocolate fountain.
That was
Yeah,
really
she
great.
was like she wasn't even a background character then, she was the foreground.
Yeah.
chocolate, and there was a background pony that looked at her like, oh, what are you doing? Ew, and like walked away, like right out off
Rarity
of
looked at
frame
her
as
as
soon as she
well.
started going, oh. Rarity wasn't actually looking at her; she was looking at Applejack. When I watched it,
Yeah,
over.
but it looked like she was looking at that.
It looked like it wasn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh my gosh, Derpy, like just like please pander to me harder. It's just
Yeah.
like please Hasbro plus or not Hasbro DHX
DHS
just
plus.
pander. So good.
Sibsy Plus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
There's like so many intricate little touches in this episode, and in a lot of the episodes in this season. But like, Vern, you were mentioning when we were watching it again, the scene where Twilight like comes to check on Pinkie Pie, and Pinkie Pie grabs the watering can and is just pouring it down the drain. And it's like, why is there a random drain right there in the street? But it's just like, to make the gag work.
Yeah.
So good.
And then just that look at when I was looking at Pinky, just
that grin.
that gigantic smile.
She
and
had
then,
that smile once when she was like pointing at something in an earlier episode, I think in season 3. But this one, it was like that smile again, overdone in context, better animated, and she was standing up, like pouring out water on nothing.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
So good.
like
and she did that. What was it? Episode 1 of season 3, where Twilight had that Windy Mane thing. The first time we ever saw it.
oh yeah, there was
Pinky did that.
totally
Yeah.
It looked so much funnier. It was like full and thick hair.
she had expressive
It was like
hair
plated.
in this episode too. It was
Yeah.
good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I like the windy mane though. It's a good touch. Made it so much more epic.
Which is
I love that Twilight.
which is
just, like,
Rainbow Dash's new word.
backed off.
Yeah.
So really quickly, because we have to wrap this up soon, I wanted to talk about the whole kind of transition when Pinkie Pie realizes that Rainbow Dash is not having a fun party or whatever, because that is like kind of her key moment. And it's in all of the key episodes that we've seen so far, there is kind of this turning point, but in this episode, it's just so well done. Because it's up until that point, it's just like go,
Yeah.
fast pace, and then all of a sudden, like Rainbow Dash gets crunched underneath this big pinata thing, and Pinkie looks down and she's like, "Oh my gosh, what am I doing? My friend is not having a fun time because she has to be a part of this competition that she doesn't want to be, and et cetera, et cetera. So it was so well done.
Rainbow Dash is not laughing.
Yeah.
Yep.
I must make her laugh.
Yeah.
If that means I got to step back and let somebody else do it, well, then it's got to happen that way.
Mhm.
I felt like they overdid the rainbow thing in this episode a little bit and spelt it out a little bit too much, which is fine because earlier when we did the spoiler cast, I complained that they didn't spell out the concept of it enough, but I feel like the last previous times with like the thread and stuff, it was just the right amount of subtle.
Yeah.
But in this, I mean, it was like teardrop rainbow, eye shine rainbow, and like there was a rainbow effect on the side of the screens, and then super rubber chicken rainbow shine. Shing! Like, please spell it out more.
Yeah.
I feel like they could have been a little bit more subtle with it. And it would have been like cuter in that sense. And it's not like we don't already know, you know.
Yeah.
But
well, I feel like
it's cute in the regard.
Yeah, I feel like this episode they definitely could have toned it down a bit just because it was so obvious.
Yeah, because
already.
like the rainbow was more of like an idiot-proof way of saying, "Bam, Pinkie Pie has now realized what she's done wrong," as like a part of her element or the part of the key to friendship or whatever you want to look at it.
Mhm.
So it was like a real blatant spell out and of like, oh, now she's noticing that her trying to become the best party pony, or like she's now overlooked her friend's happiness and party, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and then the whole backstory with Cheese was kind of cool and fun, in that.
oh yeah,
Pinkie,
I loved
like,
it. It was great.
Yeah.
Super shipping vibes.
Yeah.
What is it? Cheese sandwich and Pinkie Pie OTP.
All the way.
It's true.
Yeah.
Screw you, balloon popper pony guy.
One other thing for background characters, I like that they've brought back a lot of the single one-time only characters
Hmm.
in this episode that you haven't seen again since their episode, like the donkeys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Matilda. Was in
Yeah.
it.
Oh, consistency. Yes, give it to me.
Yeah, right.
So good.
But I think a lot of them are characters that have been in Pinkie Pie episodes that we haven't seen again.
Yeah.
Continuity.
It's
Ah.
it's nice when they can do those throwbacks, and I guess it's kind of tough because if you're trying to tell a story in a short amount of time, to throw in all these references to the show. But
Little throwbacks like that create really awesome continuity, and like it's really important. So I'm glad to see that they're doing it.
yeah. All right, so we do have to wrap up because we're kind of short on time. But I hope you guys enjoyed this spoiler cast.
We didn't have
And
much critiques
I can't
because
gush enough.
we were all big fans, so
Yeah,
we
it was
didn't really have too
fantastic
many
job.
critiques.
Weird Al, if you're listening to this spoiler cast, which I doubt it, but you know, great job, etc.,
Yeah,
etc.
we love you.
Yeah,
Sign my
fantastic.
chest. Not really.
Yeah, seriously, sign his chest.
No,
no,
yeah, awesome job.
So, come back next week for our spoiler cast of season 13 and also our Cutie Art Crusaders episode because it's going to be awesome.
Yep.
So, without further ado, my name is FlutterGuy317
I'm burned.
I'm Atmos Spark.
and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.